Good shot?
Yep.
Okay, you can see. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna have you guys come over here for a minute. So, what we're going to do today is called Japanese brush painting or Japanese ink drawing. The Chinese do it as well. So you did a little bit of this for Wuji, the city of Wuji that we sent the art off to, but you didn't use ink. Ink is totally different from watercolors or acrylics or tempera. It's much harder to use. The brushes are different. This is not actually the type of brush that you should use, but we're just going to use it now because for the sake of, we don't have many of these Sumi brushes, but I have ordered some. When you get a brush like this, let me mention this, you guys may already know, but it has some type of glue on it or wax. And so you have to wet it and then just kind of, wipe it off a little bit. You could use a paper towel and then it'll be soft. The Sumi brushes will come like this. Can you get one that pack that's not open? It looks like this, as you can see, and it's because it has the glue on it, right? But when you wet it, it's gonna look like this. So, what's neat about this type of painting is, well, it's rooted in calligraphy, actually. And so, knowing the calligraphy techniques will help you become a better painter of pictures. I don't know calligraphy techniques, so all I know is Western painting techniques. But you can still kind of figure out how to use it, but not on the level of a master, anything like that. But it's fun having limitations, because when you're limited, when you have the limitations, you will increase your skills, your facility. But one of the main things about painting these is that, and let me say something about taking paper down. Okay, since I'm in the teaching mode, Jerry takes the paper down like this too. The reason, this is not how you take paper down. Okay. So the reason for taping paper is to stretch paper. So when you're doing your watercolors or your temperas, or even, we may even do some acrylic washes, because acrylics look really nice when you use it as if you was using watercolor. So, have you heard of stretching canvas before? Maybe I can get the blue tape. I don't like this tape at all. I can't help it. It just curls up and stretch. Kind of like, I don't like this tape. I have to get what I'm used to, I guess. But when you stretch a canvas, you guys don't know how to stretch a canvas yet. But when you stretch a canvas, the canvas is raw. That means it's not white yet. Don't have any gesso on it. And what you do is you use rabbit skin glue or hot water, and when you apply that to the canvas shrinks, and that's called stretching the canvas. It makes it tight so that you have a real good drawing surface and painting surface. Well, same thing with paper. What we're doing is stretching the paper, so the tape goes like halfway on, like halfway. So all this needs to be stuck to the table as well. So what happens is when we wet the paper shrinks, just like canvas. And to keep it from warping, you stretch it.
sure you want it to be tall.
Yeah, all the way. Yeah, all the way around. So the idea is it keeps the paper from buckling, but it also, you can wet the paper more when you do it like this. So half the tape is on the table. So since I didn't tear off enough tape here, I'm not just gonna leave that. I want everything, all the edges taped down. So when you get set up for your art, one day you may learn how, may teach you how to stretch a canvas, I don't know. But all of this is the art, the preparation and everything. So back to the Japanese brush painting. So when using the sumi brushes, they're very difficult to use. So this would be your wide brush, this would be your thin brush. I may draw with this brush, like this set has 3 sizes, but you probably would use maybe 8 different sizes, 5 to 8, something like that, or even more. So you're doing landscapes, but you're doing a landscape from your mind. That's the difference. You're doing a landscape from your mind. In doing the techniques, you don't have to consider perspective at all in Japanese brush painting. I do perspective automatically at this stage of the game, but perspective is not all that important. What's important is your internal memory, mindfulness. I'll use that word, mindfulness. And this is very good meditation, okay? You really focus on the brush and everything. So you're actually, the way I look at it is I'm painting with water. I like to actually have a big glass of water that's clear so I can see how much ink is in the water. Here we just have to kind of look and determine. I may get some big plastic cups for next time. But I like a big glass of water. I like a lot of water. And I like to see how much ink is in the water. So I'm trying to control all the grades. You go from gray to black, the different values. So, would you hand me that ink, please? So we don't have to make our ink. We have ink. So just put a little dollop of ink in here. You see how wet that is, right? See how much ink I put in there. Yes, and that's probably too much. That's probably too much ink. So what I want to do is I want to keep the ink, and this is permanent, by the way. Would you give them aprons? Let me get my apron. This will not come out of your clothes.
I don't really care. Folds. This is the reason why the folds are the same shirt.
So we're just using watercolor paper. You're used to that, but they would use something like a rice paper maybe. So I'm going to attempt to demonstrate some of the possibilities, and then we will do the first painting together. You will follow me. I cannot paint with ink upright, but we'll do a painting together, and then you'll create your own, okay? But first I'm going to show you kind of like the techniques. The first technique would be to draw with the ink. We hold the brush like this. Okay? It may be perfect. Sometimes it can be slanted, but usually it's perpendicular. And you don't hold the brush like that, like a pencil. Hold the brush like this. You're trying to master this. You're trying to control it. It's out of control. It's totally out of control. And you're trying to learn how to control it. You will not be able to control it yet. The value of making this art is not how realistic it looks, but it's how realistic it feels. Like if you went into the mountains, for instance, how did you feel when you was in the mountains? That's what you're trying to portray, a feeling. It can be very spiritual, this type of art. It's definitely meditative. It's like meditating or dreaming while you are awake. Excuse me? Yeah, right. And you could play music while you're doing it. That's a good idea. I might play some music when we're doing it. I don't know. But you would play like Tai Chi music for Tai Chi, or something like that, you know, meditative music. And so you really want to get into your mind. So you thin the paint with water, and you paint with the water. A good way of doing it is drawing. One way of doing it is drawing first. I don't know if I like drawing first or not, though. A lot of people do because it's easier to do. Of course, with drawing, see how I'm holding the brush like this? And notice I only put paint. This is very important. I didn't load the brush up with paint, with ink. I just wanted ink on the tip of the brush. Now the ink can flow out. Now I can practice my lines. I'm trying to barely touch the paper. Do some cross hatching. See how I just wanted to do perspective all of a sudden. That's really perspective, isn't it? If you're looking at it upside down, maybe you should come around this side. Come around to this side. Just make sure you can see. You can be on the side or whatever. Just make sure you can see. So I'm just barely touching. Now, it's easier to do it with these type of brushes, these Western brushes, than say this brush.
Do you have to wet that brush first or no?
Not when you're drawing, no. When you're drawing, no. I'm trying to draw lines. Normally you would have I'm going to put a little water in this bowl. You'll be doing a lot of painting out of the bowl because you can see the water better. So I can set the brush there. Normally you would clean your brush if you're not using it, and I've ordered some little some holders, and then you put your brush in the brush holder like that. Or they make some hangers where you would just hang the brush. So the brushes I ordered, you see it will have some loops on the end, and you would just hang the brush like that. Keeping to tradition, we learn a lot from tradition. In Western society today, I'm trying to put a point on the brush now. In Western society today, we don't think much about tradition, but your mastery of anything is going to be based on what you know about the past, okay? So, as you can see, it's harder for me. I really want a line thinner than this. That's better. I didn't want my line to be that thick. Now that's too thick. So if I lose concentration, I just can't do anything, really. Too much pressure. Now, I want to do something like that. So, if I start light and put a little pressure, it's going to be thin at one end and wide at the other end. That figure that I painted over there, that figure, I painted it really flat. It's actually a sculpture design. So I do these sculptures that's very flat. And normally, I'll make the sculpture before I draw the picture. But in this case, I'm drawing the picture first. But if you get a chance to look over there and you see the lines aren't all the same. The line flows. So if you can sometimes practice changing your line, you can express more. Okay. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is you put water in your brush. Well, paint is still on the brush, right? I mean, I keep saying paint. Ink is on the brush. Now I'm going to put a little water on the brush. And of course, the water changes, right? So I'm going to put a little bit more ink on this brush. Put some more water. I need more water in the brush. And I'm putting ink halfway in the brush. All those are failures. Okay. That's a failure too. I'm trying to do something specific here. But I want you to play around with this, okay? So you're going to play around with it just like I'm doing. I want to get more than one shade with one stroke. That's closer to what I'm trying to do. It probably would be easier if I'm thinking about, okay, what am I actually trying to paint now? I'm trying to paint, draw. This is drawing, this is not painting. Petals. Another possibility, let's get a wider brush. I can load the brush up and I can paint just with thin ink. This would be useful. Let me show you a potential use for it. Say I do something like that. See how the paint sort of, I mean, the ink spreads when you put it in water. Since this is already wet, I can just paint over this. I don't know if you all can tell what I'm doing. Can you tell what I'm doing yet? Or does it just look like it's random? It's not.
Probably mountains.
Mm-hmm. And a lake. So these brushes, you see how the hair split? So you use that. There's also a dry brush technique. I'll show you that in a minute. Dry brush it. Now I'm painting with the side of the brush. So once the ink dries, you can paint over it with lighter variations. Can you get the point of what I'm doing here? You really have to meditate to do this. You have to go into your own little world and meditate. And now, at this point, the pictures tell me what to do. So this is what you're going to play around with today. Things can get out of control really fast. This is something that takes years to master. And that's why it's so, for me, it's so much fun. It's all black and white and grays. Okay? So you can go back to your table, and then we're going to paint one together. Yes. Just like maybe a couple of drops.
Okay. You want me to do it or?
You can do it.
Okay. I want to make sure. Practice how to hold it. Almost said knife. How to hold your brush, like he was showing you. So you guys get used to it.
Let's say, okay, so I'm going to use tempera because it's hard to do ink upright like that.
You have another bowl. That's the only one. You want me to rinse that one out?
Now, you can't let the ink dry in the brush. Because the ink is permanent. So we're going to do a scene with Lookout Mountain. And just imagine that we're looking at Lookout Mountain before Chattanooga was settled. There was nothing but Native Americans here. Okay? John Ross had a trading post down on the river there, and he traded. And so the Cherokee Indians, this is their home before, of course, it became Chattanooga. So we're going to imagine that time. So we use our imagination. Everybody, we've all seen Lookout Mountain. We know what it looks like. So I guess we can start drawing first because I guess that's the easiest way to do this. You don't have to start drawing first, but we'll do it just because we're so used to drawing. So you take your white brush, you're just going to dip the tip of it into the ink. So the mountain comes up like this, comes up, and it goes across, and it goes down kind of like that. That would be Lookout Mountain. Go ahead and see if you can do that. Make it look like Lookout Mountain though. You'll be able to recognize it. If I see this shape anywhere, I know it's Lookout Mountain. And we all know what Lookout Mountain looks like. Then let's do this. I'm gonna do like some heels in the background. Barely touch the paper. I didn't put any more ink on the brush. Just gonna put some mountains and some hills rolling in the background behind Lookout Mountain. It's going toward Nashville. Barely touch the paper. Now I'm going to force Moccasin Bend into this picture. So remember, it doesn't have to be realistic. It doesn't have to show perspective. It's about, say, like a feeling that's in your mind. So I'm just going to force Moccasin Bend on this picture and watch how I do it first. I have to look at it upside down. It's a river that looks like a moccasin. That's why they call it Moccasin Bend. I'm going to have the river thin here. I'll let it get wider here and wider down here because automatically I do perspective. Without thinking, it's hard for me to not do perspective. So that's going to be a river. This is going to be Moccasin Bend. This line probably should have been straighter. We look at the bend upside down, like a shoe turned upside down. I'm even going to turn it in so it looks like a shoe from the corner. Now I'm going to put some, like maybe like a forest, tree shape. We'll do more of this later. These light marks are done in what we call dry brush. Now I'm going to put another hill that's kind of like maybe like Archinal or something, where the Battle of Missionary Ridge was fought. I'm going to just put a hill right here. So it's like we're looking down into the valley. I think I'll put a cannon up on the hill to make a historical picture for your cannon state. drawing trees. It's kind of like we're flying over. We may be a hawk or something, or a goose. Matter of fact, this area here, where we are, just up the street, was called Blue Goose Hollow. There's a lot of geese. This painting I'm doing back here is going to be looking back at history a little bit, but looking forward into history. And I'm going to have some blue goose on this painting back there. Blue geese, right? I'm putting some little mountains down here or whatever. I'm just being creative now. Then when you finish drawing, shake your brush off and put it in your cup of water. Not the bowl, but the cup. So we're basically through with the drawing. Oh yeah, we have to draw, we need to draw some trees in the middle of the bin. It's like tree tops, really, right? Not really trees, like tree tops. You want the ink to dry. The ink dries pretty fast. You can put some little rolls down here if you want to. Use your imagination as you finish this stage of the drawing. You can add whatever you want to this picture. Like I may put some trees up here. I'll go ahead and show you what I mean. I might put a tree using the side of the brush. Matter of fact, I'll use the Sumi brush to do it. I forgot about my pen. I covered it up. so you have a 1-inch brush here. Let me sort of show you what you can do with this. For your grays, you want to just paint with the water, you know, that has your ink in it. And you try to control how much water is on the brush. And I can sort of sky. Now, a lot of the Japanese drawings will show mountains in the clouds. And the viewpoint would be like ours. It's like we're standing on the ridge looking down into the valley. And so the thin ink rather, can sort of, you think in terms of color, even though you're not using color. You imagine the color with the gray. And you leave the paper for the clouds. You can just leave paper for the clouds. And then, depending on the varying grades, so with my age, I'm losing my ability to speak. I didn't like the mark I just made, so I'm trying to fix it now before it dries. I want the mountains to be a certain shade. Yeah, I want it to look like it has their trees. But for me, that's too dark. Usually your darker values will be in the forefront, toward the bottom of the page. And this is when you start trying to do the grays, you really have to focus. The paper underneath makes it gray. Being able to see through the ink to the paper underneath.